with each other outside of the public forum. The meeting typically starts with staff calling the case, giving a summary of the project, and then calling on the applicant to present if they wish. Decisions are typically made in one evening. Decisions may be appealed within 30 days to a court of competent jurisdiction. Oaths will be administered individually as we hear either from applicants or from live speakers. Applicants with requests before the DDRC are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions by the DDRC or staff regarding the request. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns at intervals of 2 minutes. Applicants may have 5 minutes to respond. Staff has a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
The DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Will staff please review the consent agenda?
Certainly. First item is 1314 Fairview Drive, request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill in Melrose Heights, Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District. Second is 1231 Confederate Avenue, again a request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill and design approval for exterior changes and an addition in Cottontown Bellevue Architectural Conservation District. 1317 Geiger Avenue, request for design approval for an addition in the Cottontown Bellevue Architectural Conservation District. Fourth is 2402 Cypress Street, request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill in Old Shandon, Lower Waverly Historic District A. 1400 Wheat Street, request for design approval for new construction in the City Center Design Development District. 1310 Gadsden Street, request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill in the West Gervais Historic Commercial District.
Is there anyone from the DDRC that would like any item removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none. Is there anyone from the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda, all conditions stated in here, and also the December minutes?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda and approve the December minutes.
Second.
Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Ms. Sims Branham?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes.
Mr. Salibi?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Great. We'll move on then to the regular agenda.
Okay. First and only case on the regular agenda this evening is 700 Gervais Street and 1100 Wayne Street. This is in the Innovista Design District, and it's a request for certificate of design approval for new construction. The proposal is for 2 dual-branded hotels, the first an 11-story building with 173 rooms, restaurant, and a rooftop bar. The other, an extended stay hotel, will be a 5-story building with 128 rooms. The proposal also includes a 183-unit multifamily building and a below-grade parking structure. The location of the development is on the southern 5-acre portion of the partially developed area between Gervais and Pendleton and Wayne and Gadsden Streets. The development sits back from Gervais Street more than 400 feet and is situated behind the existing train depot building, an entertainment complex, and office building that front Gervais Street. Given the unique location of this site and its lack of existing streetscape context, the primary focus of the evaluation is how to design an urban pedestrian-oriented site that provides clear connectivity throughout. And I'm just going to read some highlights from the staff evaluation, as it is quite lengthy, and then you'll have a presentation from the applicants. Generally, this site is an anomaly as it does not have the traditional street frontage that most urban developments have. While this provides some additional flexibility in responding to urban streetscape conditions, it also provides additional challenges in providing clear guidance for automobiles and pedestrians on how to access the site. The design of the pedestrian pathways in this environment is critical to providing a safe and navigable environment for pedestrians. While the quantity of surface parking is not overwhelming in relation to the built area, the unique location of the site puts most of the primary pedestrian paths in and alongside parking areas, a somewhat suburban configuration within a larger urban context. This setting makes the distinction of pedestrian paths throughout the design of materials, crossings, lighting, and signage even more important than on a traditional urban street to ensure clarity and safety for pedestrians to navigate. The pedestrian spaces around the building would be better served to be wide paved sidewalks adjacent to the building with landscaping between the pedestrian zone and the parking, rather than landscaping adjacent to the building and sidewalks alongside the parking areas. The current configuration is suburban in nature, and an urban pedestrian realm should be created within the site. The staff finds that the proposal substantially meets the Innovista design guidelines and recommends approval of the request conditional upon working through the following items with staff, and I'll just paraphrase, improvements to Wayne Street and Pendleton Street, the layout and design of sidewalks and plazas internal to the development, the design of the fence in front of the residential building, the design of the parking garage, window details, screening of rooftop utility equipment, and all other details to be deferred to staff. And Ben Arnold, the developer, is here with his team, and I think he'll give a quick introduction to the project and then turn it over to his architect.
Okay. So hi, when you come up, I'll swear in whoever's going to be speaking, so if you can please state your name.
Sure. I'm Ben Arnold, and I'm the owner and developer of the project. And in the essence of time, I'm going to introduce my lead architect, Brian Husting. But first, let me say thank you for your time today to hear about our project. Brian will walk you through, and then Chuck Travis from Housing Studio will discuss the apartment. So Brian will fill you in on the hotels right now. Thank you.
Thank you. So Brian, when you come up, just to state your name again, and do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Chairman, my name is Brian Husting. I'm with Colin Altamari Architects, and I agree to abide by the conditions that you set forward.
All right, thank you.
Our project is a fairly large one. I'm hoping we can be a little bit flexible with time. We have a lot to cover. We gave the packets out to you. There's a lot of information in there. I want to focus on the items that Lucinda talked about, which is site circulation and site placement, and then we can get into the architecture of the hotels. Great. So, am I supposed to be pointing at anything directly? Here we go. All right. As you're aware, the Vista Depot exists behind the entertainment center, exists behind the historic depot and the office buildings. This is an area that has a triangular sloped piece of property, drops about 20 feet or so. We're using that slope to our advantage to place 2 stories of underground parking with apartments on top, and then placing a dual-branded Hyatt hotels, a Hyatt Centric and a Hyatt House, close to the convention center. We want to attract people from the convention center. We want to make it easy for our guests to also go direct to the convention center as well. The project also is trying to improve upon circulation paths for pedestrians from Gervais Street all the way to the arena and back again. And what we are trying to do as we move forward is develop a pathway along improved areas of Gadsden, Pendleton, to create that flow from the arena through our project. First diagram here is kind of a circulation path of how guests would probably come to the hotels and the apartments using the existing signal on Gervais and coming up the brick alleyway between Adla's Mill and the hotels. In our package, you'll see an elevation from Gervais Street of what you can actually see. And unfortunately, the existing buildings cover a lot of the bottom of the hotel. So our architectural statement really focuses on the top of the hotel, trying to create something very special there. Our next slide here is service circulation, vehicles coming in to either service the existing ad-lib mill, our trash areas and receiving areas, as well as servicing the apartments. So this is a diagram of the circulation that we foresee. Let me back it up one. Okay, so this is our circulation path for pedestrians, which is the strongest thing that we're trying to make. Between the historic depot building and our entertainment center is a wide swath promenade that connects Gervais to the rear of the property. We want to continue that over to our hotels, around our hotels, between the hotel and the convention center, and work its way all the way to the arena on the back side. So we have different ways of achieving this. We'll create a larger and wider promenade on the east side of the hotel, and we will develop a connection to the convention center, so you'll be able to go right across to there. We are going to be making improvements within the right-of-way area of Pendleton that will include a staircase, a grand staircase that can take pedestrians down to future improvements on Gaston and Pendleton that we can take to the arena. So as much as possible, we'd like to see our place as kind of the tailgate party zone before and after event, if you will. So trying to attract people to come to the center, various dining opportunities, entertainment opportunities. So that's something that we'd like to develop at the end of the day. No parking requirements, but we do have bicycle requirements, so we've included rack locations as part of our exhibit. Our plan, which is difficult to read, is a signage plan of the major signage elements that will be located, and we would handle this with planning as a separate permit. This plan shows location, but it does not show design, so we know we'd have to come back before everyone to show exactly what we're trying to achieve signage-wise and graphic-wise. These are digital models showing all the components. At the top of the sheet is the Hyatt Centric Hotel with a rooftop bar. It's fully enclosable. It does open up with large window, operable windows and a retractable roof. So when it's nice, it's going to be the place to be. The two-story office building is on the left-hand side, and you can see the apartments in the foreground here. And in between the apartments and the tower is our 5-story Hyatt House project. So the two Hyatt hotels are arranged in a U-shaped configuration with an internal courtyard back with a meeting room that works between both hotels and a courtyard with a pool that also services both hotels. This is the other view. We intend to use the existing brick street that comes off of Gervais as our entry to the hotels. So guests, visitors would come down this way if you're driving a car. We have one porte-cochere for Centric, and we have a second porte-cochere for Hyatt. This is at the request of Hyatt. There's a delicate balance here because we're doing something unique. Hyatt has never combined these two types of hotel brands together in one location. Dual-branded hotels have existed for a few years now, but Hyatt hasn't combined a 4-star luxury Centric with more of a medium-quality extended stay product of the Hyatt House. So this is unique for us, it's unique for them, and they're trying to wrestle with what is this. So they want more of a separation between the two types of clients. So there's areas that are distinct. They want a distinctive look that this is Centric and this is House. And so we've come up with 2 color palettes to try and do that, and at the same time trying to create kind of an overriding theme, if you will. So it's been tough, not tough, it's been a little bit challenging working with them. This exhibit is the back of our project, the south portion that would face Gadsden, and it's where we have most of the back of house portions of the hotel. And so we've sized the drives to facilitate fire access to here. Trash and services would be brought back here as well as employee entrances. This is kind of an overall elevation between the Centric on the left-hand side, working all the way across to the apartments on the right-hand side. The apartments drop 2 stories, and what you're seeing on the far right-hand is the entrance into the parking structure, and it has a connection off of Pendleton on the backhand side. This is the view from Gadsden if you were to drive up. On the left-hand side is the 2 levels of parking. On the right-hand side is a retaining wall 18 to 20 feet high to retain the earth that is propping up both hotels. So we're trying to create a look that will be sympathetic with the design of the parking structure, so it'll look like one base supporting the 2. On the right-hand side, you're starting to see the pedestrian staircase that would bring you up from the sidewalks on Gadsden all the way up and through the project. These are examples of our photos of the existing property the way it is now. The middle photo on the left is where you would enter in off of Gervais down to Brick Street all the way down, across from the Adler Mill on the right-hand sheet in the middle. What we are doing is the project is divided into 2 properties right now that will be consolidated or rearranged into these different ownership designations. One for the entertainment center, one set aside for the hotel, another one for the parking structure, and another one for the hotel, for the apartments rather. The owner wants the opportunity to sell off the entities to future investors, and this is kind of a work in progress, if you will, in that consolidating what's there, but a possible future subdivision as we move forward. I don't want to talk about civil engineering.
Civil engineer is here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that the issue of civil engineering, what we want to focus on is we know we're going to have to work on improvements on Wayne Street and Pendleton, and that may include widening of the street. We would like to see if it's possible to have a portion of Wayne Street be 2-way, and we fully intend to work with the city to explore that and making sure that these roads are brought up to current standards. So it's going to be a continuous discussion on what that is and try and set up a pedestrian path that eventually could lead all the way to the arena. So a lot of information, much more engineering, if you will. From a landscape architecture standpoint, we're really trying to infill, and a lot of this is happening within the right-of-way of Wayne Street and Pendleton. Again, we want to work with the city to increase, probably go beyond what is a normal easement landscaping, try and hide the parking structure a little bit, create something inviting from the backside, as well as create a resort destination. From this shot, you can see our internal pool between the hotels. You also get an idea of where the pool is for the apartment buildings. This is the plants palette that's been chosen for our property. The hotel architecture is arranged in a U shape. The darker blue material, purple material, is the Hyatt-centric, 11 stories with its own meeting room. It will have a destination restaurant. We met with Hyatt yesterday in Chicago, and they want to create something special here. So we know it's a walk. They want to create something worth the walk. They think they can beat everybody in town. Good for them. We know you have some great things here. They're going to try their best to be a signature restaurant, attracting people from the historic area to the convention center and pre and post events at the arena. The green portion is the Hyatt House area, and on this particular level, we have a lot of the back of house services facing south. As we move up through the plan, you're starting to see the various guest rooms that are happening here and working up through the tower. It starts breaking into the 11-story centric at the top of the sheet and stands on its own, and it only really connects on level 1, and then it starts rising higher. Although at 11 stories, it's a tall tower, because downtown rises, the view of downtown actually sits higher than anything we would do. We would still sit higher than the Adler Mill. And when you look to the south and the west, we may be the first tall element that you see outside the city looking back, but not nearly as tall as what's downtown in comparison, just because the ground rises up. On this particular sheet in the top right-hand corner is our rooftop bar. We have a dedicated elevator to take you up there, plus opportunities for guests to come directly from their room with views to the state capitol, historic district, out to the river, and to the south as well. We're retaining a small area that could be a private club and a music lounge. This is stuff all in process and discussions with Hyatt at this time. Rooftop showing a retractable roof. When it's nice, we want to be able to open it up and just have a great time up there. These are views of our elevations. I want to get to our renderings because I think it's a little bit more things, but this shows the colors that we're trying to do with the tower being a darker palette. We're showing a brick coursing at the bottom in a traditional red brick, and on the Hyatt House, the shorter one is a gray brick blend in lighter gray tones. So we realized that the colors in the pamphlets are difficult to read. As architects, we always struggle with the digital medium, so we brought some of the existing samples here for you to see firsthand. When we did these renderings and working with planning, we were the assumption that there was a preference for the use of a brick base as a tie-in to historical references with the adjacent district. I think we misunderstood that, and that we didn't have to be so literal to incorporate as much brick into the project. So we would like the opportunity of working with planning to develop either a lesser amount of brick or another base element to the project to see if that's an opportunity for us as well. So Hyatt is pushing us to be more contemporary in nature. They want something as a signature piece, and the Innovista District allows that type of innovation and moving it into more of a contemporary mode. And we'd like to embrace that as much as possible. So in your package, there should be some confusion in that we submitted an alternative set of renderings towards the end of the package. So on sheet A13 here is what the original submittal was, showing a frame element as the portico for Hyatt Centric and another similar element to the Hyatt House. Hyatt wants to see more distinction between the two entry points, so this did not resonate with them very much. So we had an alternate set of elevations that are towards the rear of the package. Now, I'd like to get to that if this will cooperate. Okay. So I'm going to go back one or a couple here. It's like the people in my office not working. There we go. So at the request of Hyatt, we were asked to do a night view showing how, when everything is opened up at top, that this thing just glows. We want to create that place where you want to be. We want to attract you from the arena. We want to attract you from downtown. We want to create something that's happening here. A great restaurant inside, and we have the restaurants and the entertainment to back it up. So we're trying to create a destination here for hospitality and entertainment, and we think we have that. It's also the proximity to the convention center is kind of a natural as well. This was the shot that we were asked to do, showing what you could actually see from Gervais Street. And the depot building knocks off, you can't even see the apartments, and you can't see the Hyatt House very well, and the lower portions, once landscaping is put in the parking area, really blocks the lower portion. So the top of the building is what you would actually see. And in this shot that's showing it, you have to be aligned with this extension of Gadsden Street, the brick street, to actually see this view. Driving by, you would probably miss the whole thing. So the top of the tower becomes really important, and we want to have some signage, probably from both hotels up there, to identify our location. The view at night again, and our palette. In this one, we were embracing a reddish brick similar to the convention center, darker tones of gray, and then we have a prismatic panel color. The colors actually change on here. It's not something we can capture in the rendering and so forth. So we want to create something a little bit lively, a little bit has an entertainment factor, and every time you see it from different vantage points has a shift in color. So we want to explore that as kind of our destination. The Hyatt House, we were trying to tone it down a bit. It's a little bit lighter. We were using a gray blend veneer here as well, and some bronze accent panels between lights and aluminum color eyebrows over each of the windows. A little bit lighter, a little bit more straightforward. So these are the alternate renderings that I wanted to show you. So unfortunately, we weren't able to meet with Hyatt until yesterday, which was a day before here, but we wanted these in the package that if you perused through ahead of time, this is where the confusion might lie. So Hyatt was looking for more of a distinction at the porte-cocheres between the two, and to embrace that, we developed a series of alternates, but this seemed to be the favorite one from the owner in having more of a thinner element coming out in front of Hyatt-centric and something different than what would be at Hyatt House. Hyatt embraced this, but they would not prefer the angular. They would like something projecting straight out. What we have here is a view from the Hyatt-centric in Buckhead, Atlanta. And this is something more that we're envisioning, something that would come out covered with the same prismatic metal cladding and a skylight. On the Hyatt House, what we would do is articulate the top a little bit with some flying beams and be a little bit more distinctive with our porte-cochere. The direction we received from Hyatt yesterday is to thin up the columns a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see the project as you're driving around. So we owe it to them to come back with them and to work with planning to see if we can achieve these. But this is the look that we would like to go after with your blessing today or any comments that you have. I'm up here right now. I'm happy to address anything on hotels before I turn it over to the apartments, or would you rather wait till afterwards for questions?
Am I on? Sorry.
Yeah, I was
Staff,
just going to
what
say,
would-
is your
what would you
microphone
advise?
on?
Sorry, yeah, I was trying to save you from my coughing.
Yeah, it's however you want to do it. I mean, there's a lot to absorb, so if you, yeah, maybe.
Well, I would like to maybe pause a second, and let's check in with commissioners and for what's been presented thus far, I think, and then let's kind of go from there. Does that sound good? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Any commissioner have any follow-up questions at this point? I see one. All right. Oh, are you on?
Hello, hello.
There you
Okay. I have, first of all, just a couple of general comments. Number one, Ben, thank you again for contributing to this wonderful Vista area. I think it's going to be another great development that's going to spur economic development and kind of resurge our Vista area. So thank you for that, Ben. Number two, thank you to the architects and everyone who put this packet together, because I can't tell you how refreshing it is to see a complete and comprehensive packet that's easy for us to understand all the information in it. So I applaud you for that. And as one of the architects on the group, I really appreciate it. I guess I only had a couple of questions that I wanted to address that pertain to most of the comments from the staff. And I think you reiterated it, Brian, when you were talking about, really wanting to bring people towards the building and get them to the restaurant and all that. And I do think, even though you were great to show some of the pedestrian where they're going to walk, I really think if I'm walking there, which I will be doing a lot of, I want it easy to not navigate around the cars that are driving through. Clearly, thank goodness you have all that parking underneath. But I think going back to the staff comments about delineating, like I would hate to have to walk all the way to that intersection between the two buildings. Nobody's going to do that, as we know. They're not going to walk down and go in the middle of the two buildings. So I think if we're going to have a pedestrian access that comes off of, oh gosh, Ben, what's the name of that street?
You mean the main promenade between the two things?
By
I know
the
what you're saying.
depot coming through
Yeah,
that
yeah.
area?
Yeah. Yeah,
That there'd be a direct path that takes you to the corner over there by the Hyatt Centric, and a clear pedestrian kind of change of pavement or something that really makes it where people are going to want to walk there. Because I imagine, I don't know how much parking is underneath, but are visitors going to be able to park under there and go to the restaurant and stuff like that?
Yes, we have a 385-space deck that serves really the Vista, the apartments, the office to some degree, and the entertainment, as well as valet parking. But we also have 749 spaces on the overall site. So and we're going to have a national parking company running all this because it's pretty complicated with the mixed-use daytime, nighttime parking.
Yeah,
But to address your issue, the depot building, I think you're familiar with it, but there's a pretty wide loading dock. So to get from Gervais to the back of that is not an issue. The main access, ingress and egress out of the entertainment complex is between the two buildings, which we have lit with, you may have seen lamps with fire, and it's all lit up. But there's going to be some crosswalk. There's a major crosswalk between the hotels and the entertainment complex. And then we also have sidewalks that go around the back of what's, I guess it's office now, but it could be entertainment in the future. Like where Paul Mitchell it was, that back area. So I don't know if I'm answering your question,
Well,
but
I mean,
we know
maybe-
some more thought needs to go into it.
So let me just, for protocol, let me just swear you in, even though you stated your name earlier. So do you just swear to tell the truth for everything you've told us up to this point and anything you tell us into the future?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, no, sorry, just protocol, yeah. So,
Sorry
I don't
about
want to
that.
get dinged later on that.
You'd
so.
think I'd know after about
That's
15
all
of
right.
these
That's
things
all right.
over 30 years that
Well,
I'm supposed to be
yeah.
sworn in.
Yeah, so if we could just go to the site plan, Brian, maybe just the zoomed-in site plan that I think, G5, I think is what it is. I'm just thinking, it looks like you have a sidewalk that connects you walking over towards the convention center. I mean, it's delineated in the parking area, right? Looks like I don't think it's a sidewalk, but it's just pavement change in color or whatever that allows you concrete. That little piece right there that takes you straight to the convention center. So I'm just proposing that we look at opportunities where if I'm walking over here alongside the depot and I then have to navigate either walking, what people are going to do, as you know, Ben, they're not going to walk next to the back part of where the depot is, walk along that sidewalk, then come down and then go across. I mean, they're going to try to take the path of least
No,
resistance.
I absolutely agree with you. So this is, Lucinda was kind enough to allow us to have a conference call to speak with her about the project before we submitted. And these were the kinds of things that came up. And we hadn't fully resolved what she talked about. We did it partially, but I think there's a better solution. It needs to be much more direct. It needs to be very simple. We would also like to encourage people from the convention center getting to our entertainment zone. We need to make that as painless as possible. What we were kind of focused on was making sure people weren't getting hit by cars, two different drop-off areas and so forth. So I think we can do better, and we need to be working on that.
That'd be great. If you can just work on that with staff, that would be great, because I think we're going to have a lot of draw, and then you're going to have people coming in their cars looking for a spot, and they're not at the hotel, and they haven't parked under, it's,
Right,
and
right.
it's going to be a great, exciting place, but I think if we can figure that out and make it more pedestrian friendly, number one, you'll get more people, because if you think you're going to risk your life trying to walk over there, I don't know how much,
We want you risking your life throwing axes.
Let me make one little statement. The garage has elevators that go up into the hotel and the multifamily.
and there'll be public
And then we have
access to it.
valet parking too. So
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
But a lot of people, as you know, Ben, they walk around all the Vista, and then they'll come over there and go up to the bar, and, so it's really about that occasion, a lot of the walking that we see naturally of people parking somewhere else and walking over here.
I know, we're like the parking lot for the whole
I know
Gervais
you
Street
are.
corridor.
Yeah, exactly.
So with your permission, we'd like to continue to work with staff on improving that, and I think we can.
So, and then the only other question I had, and first of all, I also want to applaud you for getting all the letters that were written on your behalf, because that also helps a lot in knowing that everybody's embracing this project, and that's very important that you included it and that you've been reaching out to those stakeholders. Back to the base component that we're talking about, maybe changing from brick. I wasn't even real clear when it said thin brick. Is it on a precast thin brick, or what was the substrate behind the thin brick that was proposed? Not that it matters if you're going to change it, but.
Yeah, it would be metal stud construction with thin brick applied on the lower levels. The body of the tower is stucco finish with reglet reveals, and then the top is a heavy use of the metal paneling. So this was a comment that was very recent today and yesterday, and if it wasn't brick, what would it be? So one option is less brick. Maybe it just appears in columns with infills of other bronze panels. It could be precast elements. That was discussed very early on in the project, so that'd be an option. So as much as I embrace contemporary architecture, I always think it's nice when a building has a base element that looks like it's being supported and held to the ground. So something that communicates a level of heaviness is something I would like to move to. It doesn't have to be brick.
I agree, and I was a little, I know, I get the sense, understand about separating the Hyatt from the long stay when I forget what that was called. But anyway, I understand that the juxtaposition of the two facades, though, where it just breaks and then you change the red brick from the gray is a little disconcerting. I think the staff pointed that out too. So if I mean, the rest of the building looks completely different, so I'm not opposed to the base all being the same. Now, Hyatt might have a problem with it, but, I'm sorry, am I taking up all the time?
No,
Wonder how the other
everybody will
commissioners
have an
feel.
opportunity, so,
But I'm not opposed to it being the same color since the towers are completely different. But again, I'm sure that's a Hyatt thing, perhaps.
Yeah, and we started that. We wanted something more uniform. It didn't go over well.
I got you.
Unfortunately, Hyatt has two different camps that are very separate. These guys believe this, these guys believe that. We haven't been able to overcome that. I think it's still going to be a great project. I think your concern of the two bricks colliding in the back is a real one. And maybe we have to find a way to create a little bit more separation so we don't
A
have that.
reveal or some sort of a little
I know, and even more than that, perhaps.
hyphen or something.
We need to create two different personalities in one person, if you will.
Yes.
And that's the balance that needs to be done. You're correct. Thank you.
Well, my last comment is on the porte-cochere change. I actually kind of like the angled one, but it's fine if they want to go with the straight one. I do think it was super heavy looking to begin with, and I really like that it's lightened up on the Hyatt-centric piece, and that you're also looking at the other porte-cochere. So I think, I'm good with the direction, again, working the way it's looking now, particularly for what you handed out. So
all right. Any other commissioners?
You done?
I think I'm done. Thanks,
now-
Mom.
You can
Oh,
always come back.
it's I was a little concerned about the thin brick, but I think you well explained what the situation is. The South is very humid, has a lot of humidity, and I just want to make sure that whatever material you have will withstand the South, humidity as well.
We don't have a choice. We have to prepare something that will last a long time, will make him proud, and will make you proud. So we have to make that happen.
Incidentally, the brick that we have on the Hyatt House is the same brick that we put on the Palm, so we're test driving the product right now.
Okay. And another thing is, you circulated this. This is what you're proposing at the front entrance?
That was a recommendation from Hyatt to move in that direction for the centric. So, and that photo is mainly to focus on the porte-cochere projection. That one totally cantilevers. They've given us the option that if we had columns, that would be acceptable too. What we're wrestling with is we think it's important to cover a lot of cars, since it'll be a valet operation, from the sun and rain. And some of these other neighborhoods, they don't project out as far. So projecting out far is really a hell of a cantilever. So we kind of reserve the right to maybe put some columns in to make it a little bit more palatable structure-wise.
Good, Commissioner. All right, any other comments, questions at this point? Okay. Was there
Have an
another
apartment.
presentation, or?
Well, there's more, the apartment side, but we'll
Okay,
keep
yeah.
it brief. Thank you for the
Sure.
extra time.
No, thank you. Please,
if you can
whoever's going to
work.
speak, come up for your swearing in, and we'll get started. Aye.
Actually, go back
going the
go
wrong
back to
way.
the site plan that we had. I'll start with that. There you
All right, so if you can please state your name, and do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
go. Hello, Madam Chair and Board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm Chuck Travis, principal with the Housing Studio. We're the architect for the apartments, and we're also designing the parking structure that will be on the top of the podium. And with me today is Carl Knauss, who's our project architect in-house. So if you have specific questions that are more technical, Carl has been working on this, and I'm sure between the two of us, we can get you the answers that you need. And I do swear to tell the truth.
All right, thank you.
If there's anything else in
Check,
your...
okay, you
Check.
can go on.
So the reason I wanted to start with the site plan, and I know you've seen this before, and Brian did a great job explaining the entire context of the site. What I wanted to start with was the organization of our building plan, so you understand the way that we think about how we put apartments together. As you know, we're on top of the parking podium itself, and so that would lend the opportunity to have one long linear building on one edge of that parking structure. What I really like about this plan and what it illustrates is that we have the Hyatt House to the top of the drawing. We have the apartments on the lower side, very comparable in height and scale along that, what will be sort of a motor court between the two of us. And so I think it's going to have a very nice feel from a pedestrian standpoint, also usability standpoint, and the relationship of the buildings between the hotel and the apartments. The way the building for the apartments is organized is that it has a center spine, which is closest to Wayne Street. As you can see, we've started to have fingers that come at both ends towards Wayne. But in the middle, what we like to call a hyphen helps us with the indentation in the center of that building. It creates a courtyard space that can be a more private pool that's elevated, that's overlooking the topography that's below us. And as you know, there's a rail line that's adjacent to us. It'll be overlooking that. But the nice thing about it is it really starts to break down the scale of that long linear facade. If you go back to the facade that's closest to the Hyatt House, the way we've organized it is we actually have fingers that are coming from that center spine. And so what we've done is we've created 2 additional courtyard spaces that are more passive type courtyards, not like a pool, but it's something that can actually be used by guests that could come to the property and residents themselves. It is open, but we have put a fence between the courtyard itself and the parking area just to shield headlights that might be shining into that space and also knock down that light that might be coming in those residential units that face it as well. So that's the way we've organized the building. And going in the right direction? I'm going backwards, okay. Now. Sorry, you're going to get to see Brian's beautiful plans one more time. And I think the first part of our presentation starts with the actual parking structure itself. And so what you see, and I'll move through these fast, but this is the ground level. You can see the entry from Pendleton on the right-hand side of the drawing. That's the main entry on this level. Obviously, you can see to the top of the drawing, that's where the connection to the hotels will be from the lowest level of the parking, and to the left, that becomes the elevator and stair that brings you up to the entertainment district, also for the office uses that Ben's currently housing there. Go to the second level, we actually have all of the trash and services inside of this garage structure. The way they'll be serviced is they'll actually be rolled and picked up on Wayne, and you can see that in the bottom left-hand side of that drawing. You also see the entry ramp that's coming in on this second level, and that's coming from the parking lot that's up closer to the office building that's existing currently. And then when you go to the top, this is our building sitting on top of that, and we were just looking at that in the site plan a few minutes ago. You can see the 2 courtyards at the top of the drawing that I was just talking about that's more passive. You see the pool that's on the bottom side that creates that courtyard. The other nice thing about this is I go up one level, you can see that's a single loaded corridor on that side. So it gives us the opportunity of having glass on all floors. This is a 5-story building that looks out at the pool. So it gives some nice natural light to that corridor, sort of gives a heart to where you go to in the community so that you can find where you are and give you orientation. We do have elevators, stairs that take you from all floors all the way down to the lowest level of the garage. The elevations, the way that they've been organized, obviously we're trying to feature the fingers that are coming out at you. This is standing at the Hyatt House looking back at the apartment building. The center on the ground floor, which I'm going to go back to real quickly. You can see on the ground floor as you come in on the Hyatt House side, this is the location for the leasing office and also the clubhouse and all of the amenities that opens onto the pool. Then as we continue going up in the building, you can see on the upper left-hand side, That is what we call a sky terrace, where we're taking out a unit itself. We're going to have just incredible views of the skyline of Columbia and an opportunity to look over the entertainment district, and it becomes an amenity for all the residents. It becomes an outdoor entertainment type location as well, but it's someplace you can retreat in quieter times and perhaps on weekends or when they're throwing some type of an event. This will become the place that you could go and really be a part of all the action. Elevation-wise, it's a hard coat stucco on all of the building. Obviously, various color schemes. This is a cyberspace color that we use with Sherwin-Williams that we really like. It's not a black and it's not a blue, but it's somewhere in between the two. It's a really strong, bold color that we've used successfully on lots of different projects throughout our history. The way the fenestrations are treated are very simple and straightforward. We do have a 2x6 perimeter wall that will be changing to a 2x4 perimeter wall at that detail where the window is, so you get a nice 2-inch to 2.5-inch type relief in that location, so we get nice shadow lines around the windows and give it some depth, but it's a little more of a modern treatment as to how we detail it and treat the trim around that window. This is an elevation that you would see from Wayne Street, and obviously we do have the parking structure that's starting to open up. We will have some natural ventilation. It's not fully naturally ventilated, so obviously we'll be supplementing it with mechanical ventilation. It will be fully sprinkled as well because we have residential units stacking on top of it. And if I could get it to proceed forward. There's the two side elevations. One from the existing office building on your left-hand side where you can see that entry that I described on the second level. You can see where the actual motor court is on the left-hand side that connects to the Hyatt House. And then this other elevation on the right-hand side is what you would see from Pendleton. And you can see that we do have two levels that are exposed, getting some higher degree of natural ventilation, but not enough to fully ventilate the garage, as I mentioned. And I think that is the conclusion. And Carl and myself will be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, that I'll open up any commissioner questions.
I have a question. The apartment, the tenant themselves are going to have pets. Do you have a place for a dog park?
They do have pets. And we probably have more pets in our communities than people these days.
Yes.
So we're very cognizant of that. I don't think we have a dedicated pet park in any location. Yeah, I'll let Carl talk.
All right, hey, Carl, come up and state your name, and do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding?
Hello, my name is Carl Knowles, and I swear to tell the truth. We anticipate having a dog spa amenity in the parking deck. We have plenty of space for it in the deck in the corner, so we'll definitely carve that out. It's not shown in that plan, but it'll be there. We have discussed dog park amenities. There's not a whole lot of space left on the site there, but we are looking at on the plan west side of the apartments above that drive aisle, if we may be able to fit that in there. That green space, that triangle shape between the office and the apartments.
Is it going to be fenced in?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Any other questions? Yeah, Commissioner?
I have a question, but I was going to defer to my colleagues if they wanted to speak first. Do y'all have any? Okay. So just a couple of things. Just again, hitting on the comments by staff. Do y'all have any problem? I heard you talk about the headlights in those front courtyards, and that's why it's 6 feet high, but do you have any problem bringing it down to 4 feet to make it a little less? I think we can still get those headlights at 4 feet high. Okay.
None whatsoever, and as you note, it's open on both ends, so it's not
Right.
to keep people out. It's primarily just to have it feel
Have
a
a little
little
privacy
more
back there. Yep.
as a special place.
Great. Also, I do agree with, when you were showing the elevations of the parking side along Pendleton and Wayne, the parking garage itself, if we can handle that with a little bit more landscaping than it appeared to be, just to kind of, tone that down a bit. I don't love the fact that it looks like it's a cream color as opposed to all the grays that you're using in the building. So I don't know if that's something that I'm just seeing in that rendering, or if y'all can, I mean, I think y'all can work that out with staff, but I just think because it's so apparent that's the parking garage, because there's nothing hiding it, it's a little bit, needs to be softened.
Sure, and I completely agree. It's not anticipated to be a cream. I think I think that's the digital realm that it is. We're showing a ribbed finish, so it'll be part of the form, and it may be. We're still deciding whether that's a stained or painted concrete or exposed concrete. We're playing with that right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But not cream.
As far as the landscaping, Charles Howell is our landscaper, land plan group, and he's not here, but this is just a initial blush. We obviously are going to meet code, and we'll certainly take that into, comply with shielding a concrete parking deck. We agree 100%.
Great, thank you.
I guess my only comment is that we've heard a lot of iterations and things that are kind of in development, and it sounds like staff is comfortable working with you through these as what's been presented. Do you have a time frame when you plan to bring this all together, or?
Sure. As you can see, it's a rather complicated project, so
Yeah.
we'll be spending the rest of this year designing and submitting for permit and hoping to break ground the first quarter of '24. And it should take 2 to 2.5 years to build out the whole project, as it's not phased. We're doing all the site work initially and then going vertical.
Commissioner, any other questions?
In addition to the suggestions already raised by my fellow commissioners, did you have any problems with staff recommendations on the project?
No, we looked through them, and I've worked with staff a lot over the years, so I think we'll be able to work out the details. We just appreciate your input today. I have one question. As far as the brick base, do you have any preference on the material, or probably shouldn't have opened that up, but I'm too straightforward.
Yeah, no, I will open that up to any comment.
The only thing I'd say, Ben, is that, we really can't see it from any elevation, at least on Gervais Street. So I think it's really, I appreciate the staff comments too about this is setback. It doesn't really follow exactly the Innovista design guidelines to the T because of its uniqueness and where it's located. So I think, and I'm really excited about what it's going to look like at the top there, and I think that's going to be a great addition to our skyline. So I think we're pretty open to it, making sure that the building is, that the base is an accent to the building's architecture in general, and not so much now that it doesn't have to. It did look like it was a tiny little homage to the red brick building next to it, and it was, and I get that why y'all did that, but I think now that we could go away from it, I think whatever best suits the building architecture and the Hyatt's kind of requirements, I think I'd be good with.
I agree with those comments too. Any other commissioner, any other comments, questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Have you concluded all the topics? Okay, all right, thank you. So with that, we'll move to public comment, I gather. All right, we will now hear any comments from the public. Okay. I'm assuming we don't have any follow-up questions, as I just asked everybody, so I'm going to open up the floor to a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for design approval for 700 Gervais and 111 Wayne Street, subsequent to the following recommendations by staff. 1, for improvements to Wayne Street and Pendleton Street, including sidewalks, pedestrian lighting, and shade trees to meet the city standards. The layout and design of sidewalks and plazas internal to the development site be designed to city standards for urban street design using paving patterns, lighting, trees, and landscaping to clearly define pedestrian areas and provide connectivity throughout the site and to existing pedestrian infrastructure. The fence in front of the residential building not exceeding 4 feet in height. The design of the parking garage frontage along Pendleton and Wayne Streets be screened with landscaping to be reviewed and approved by staff. Punched window openings in both hotel buildings to have a 3 to 4 inch relief, and all window details and sections to be reviewed and approved by staff. All rooftop mounted utility equipment to be screened, and all other details to be deferred to staff.
Second that. Go ahead.
All right. Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Ms. Sims Branham,
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Jaco,
Yes.
and Mr. Salibi. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, any other items on the regular agenda? I don't see any.
We have a few items under other business this evening. We have our board elections that have to happen every January, and I think I emailed all of you that Ms. Jaco and Mr. Salibi were happy to continue their roles as chair and vice chair. So we just need to confirm that that's the will of the commission. So we'll start with Ms. Jaco. All in favor of continuing with Ms. Jaco as chair, please raise your hands.
Raise your hands. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Jaco.
Well, thank you.
And Mr. Salibi, all in favor of Mr. Salibi continuing as vice chair. Mr. Greenberg couldn't get his hand up fast enough. So thank you both for being willing to serve. And one other item, which I know is not easy, and thank you for being here and being willing to step up as needed. And that goes to all of y'all. I just wanted to make a note that I've gotten word that council will not be making new appointments for another month or so. They'll be reviewing applications in March for positions that we still have open. So I just wanted to encourage all of you. We appreciate your service so much, but if you could doubly plan to be here since we are missing some members to flesh out our commission, and then we have recusals, and sometimes we have sickness. So if you could redouble your efforts to be here for the next few months until we get some more appointments made, that would be greatly appreciated.
How many open positions do we have right now on the commission? I thought it was one. Is it more than one?
We typically have a board of 9. Has been
Yes,
what
we
it
haven't had
is.
that in a long time. Yeah.
Right, we've had one person rotate off. Mr. Broom is due to rotate off, but we'd appreciate your continued presence for a little while
I'm
if you're
open.
so willing. And we've been missing a position for quite some time now, architectural historian,
Right.
so on, which is, I think, being addressed, but I don't think we're going to see any new appointments for a little while.
Are there other specialized positions that are vacant? I know you mentioned the art historian.
Yeah,
Are there any other requirements?
architectural historian, I think it's a community development position, or, sorry, community representative position that's
Oh,
open.
okay, yes.
And then, as Mr. Broom rotates off, we'll have an architect position opening up. So thank y'all very much.
Yeah, thank you for giving us the heads up on that. All right, any other business, commissioners? All right, with that, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting tonight. Thank you.
All right, in a second. We're adjourned? All right, thank you. All right, thank you, everybody.